Two. It's not chocolate milk, it's iced coffee. Some of my leftover coffee from this morning. I need an extra little boost. I'm quite tired, honestly. It's not a chalky milk. I'm not opposed to a little chalky milk, maybe. It's been a while since I've had one. But no, it's an iced coffee. I've been very tired. You know, the season's changing. The sun's going down earlier. It's getting into the winter months. I'm doing dad stuff. I did Halloween the other night. Kind of burning the candle at both ends here. And yeah, I'm pretty exhausted. Like yesterday, after around 3 hours of doing this stream, I was really like, It's one of those, you know. A chilly iced coffee on a cold winter day. Well, it's not that. It's chilly today, but it's not like it's minus 20 or anything. And sometimes when you've got leftover coffee, that's the question. Like, do I want to have an iced coffee or do I want to put this in the microwave? And I am not at all above microwave coffee. Not at all. But like, sometimes it's nice to have a little icy treat. Dad energy gets zapped when the candy's flowing through the kids' veins. For sure, yeah. For sure. But I'm here. I'm still standing. I watched the recap of the first 3 seasons and it brought back a lot of memories. Maybe I went a little too hard on the blob stuff back in the day. It wasn't that. It was just that never became a lasting meme. And it's not going to. I did really like that video though. I thought it was very funny. There's some very funny things in that video. It was funny watching like all the changing sets and also all the different fits and also you see the hair growing out and then going down and then growing out and going down. That was funny. Three entire years of TRRS. Pretty hard to believe. The mustache journey, that's right. There was the whole experiment last year where it was gone for a while and then it's back again. Yeah, the different mustache lengths. We marked the passage of time using Rob's hair. That's right. I got like one cut in the spring, summer, and one cut in the fall, winter. Biannual. Maybe I might do 3 this year. We'll see. Might do 3 cuts. We'll see how she goes. I don't have any lunch already. I ate already. I was really hungry before starting, so I ate a sandwich already and some grapes and my iced coffee. The 2 Canadian seasons, hockey and not hockey. But I just don't watch hockey, though, so I'm one of the weird ones. I've been gone on vacation, but thanks, Rob, and the community for keeping me informed on the genocide going on in Palestine. Yeah, of course, Sam. It's been, it's been a lot of good discussion, I think, over the last couple of weeks while this has been going on, you know? It's been, like I said, it's been valuable for me, too. I hope it's been valuable for people in the community, but it's been valuable for me as well, just to be able to come in here and talk through this stuff every day. As the saying goes... more and more people are saying hockey watching is optional. And yeah, as you know, I'm a basketball guy. I'm a hooper, as you know. And pretty encouraging Raptors game last night. It's been a pretty uneven start, which is kind of understandable. It's a new situation, new coach, some new players coming in, some longtime players going out. So I guess I kind of understand a little bit of a rocky start to the season, including a really bad loss to the Bulls, which is one of the most unpleasant basketball games I've ever watched. I think they had that game sewn up about 5 separate times and then kept on finding even more hilariously improbable ways to not win. Who's the coach? Is Darko Rajakovic, who was an assistant with Memphis last year. But the game last night, very encouraging. The game against the Bucks last night, they looked really great. That's how you say that? Thank you. Good. I'm glad that I pronounced that correctly. Hey, Marina. I was just drinking a Capri Sun as a little treat, and it was delightful. That sounds nice. I love those little Capri Sun little drink pouches. Love those. But the game last night was very encouraging. Scotty Barnes looks like he's actually he was supposed to take a leap last year and kind of didn't, and a lot of people were kind of anxious about that. And right now this season, it looks like he has taken that leap. Like, he looks like a potentially dominant guy, dominant player, still real super young, a lot of time to get even better. So that's really encouraging. Because last season was such a painful disaster for the Raptors, but like, it's also a few things just went wrong that were kind of just totally flukes that kind of derailed their whole year. And Otto Porter Jr. was another one. He barely played last year, and all of a sudden he came in last night and he instantly elevated them. I hope he can play a little bit this year. If he can actually stay on the court, he's going to be super valuable for them. So that's the thing. I didn't have super high expectations for this season, but I wasn't really like doomer either. I wasn't thinking it was going to be a total disaster. So a lot depends on how things go, but if they can stay healthy and if they play like they did last night, they can they can have a good season. They can probably win 50 games this year, which would be great. It would be good to get back to that level, because the last few years of Raptors teams kind of failing to live up to those expectations after a consistent, very consistent, like 10-year run of being good to very good. The last 3 years really have been pretty painful. So getting back to that level this year would be pretty cool. Still not going to get my hopes up yet, though. But Scotty Barnes, like, playing like a borderline all-star player. Like, he looks phenomenal right now. If he can play like that consistently, he's going to be like an all-NBA kind of player.
Count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
From the river to the sea, BB.
Thank you, NB Adams. Thanks for 14 months of Tier 1. I'd give anything to trade this hell world for being back in Toronto when the Raps won the championship. It really was like the last time that I had like a good feeling, you know? In terms of like something happening, like, of course good things can happen in your life and you can be feeling okay, but like overall just like feeling positive about like the state of the world, you know? I have video of when I was in Biftech in Montreal, prior to, or just when they won the championship in the big celebration. I still have it on tape, and it was on video, and it was so great. When Bernie won Nevada, yeah, for sure. The before times, that's right. Man, I remember still the after Nevada, looking at the highlight reel of like the news footage of the newscasters like losing their minds. Yeah, that was probably about as good as it gets. I'd say. Right before COVID, right before just like tipping over into just full disaster zone. And then the Raptors winning were the like 6 months prior to that. Yeah, we've watched it a couple times. I don't really feel like reliving it right now because now I'm so disillusioned with the whole thing, and I'm so disillusioned with Bernie, and now I'm like questioning all kinds of things about all these things that we were all very passionate about and talking about. So I don't even feel like going back and trying to pretend like capture that feeling. We've done it a couple times on this show, though. There's a whole highlight reel of all the news people just like losing their minds. That was good stuff. I remember the Kawhi shot very well. Yeah, I remember it very well. I, for one, am shocked that Democratic Socialists are politically disappointing. I mean, isn't it? It's the whole reason why you need to read theory, because then you can just, like, you don't have to go through it to experience it and then to learn this lesson the hard way. You can just open the book and read the book and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. I get it. Bernie was always the middle ground and not the goal. Well, I mean, for PM Trio, like, that's for me and for a lot of other people. That's one thing that I will always appreciate, that I think he kind of opened a door that you can then choose to walk through. So I think that's, no matter what happened or no matter what level of disappointment there might be, I think that's like a valuable thing that I will always appreciate. It really makes you wonder about how when DSA got a little bit of traction, all of a sudden there's a bunch of new people doing really stupid shit. Who are the new people doing stupid shit? I think that's kind of the interesting thing about DSA right now, is that there's kind of a schism in DSA where they need to, like, overall as an organization are going to need to go down a path that either is like promoting internationalism and anti-imperialism and anti-colonialism, or this kind of like fringe Democratic Party kind of social democrat thing, you know, which might have a larger appeal to a larger number of people, but will be less like important and effective. I think it would be better to have personally, I have no stakes in that. I'm not a member of DSA, obviously, but I think overall it's probably better to have a tighter knit organization that is laser focused on something and in ideological lockstep about something than a larger organization that has all these factions and different wings and all these different views on, especially about foreign policy and imperialism and stuff, which seems to tank a lot of these kind of movements, being squishy on foreign policy and getting scared off every time the propaganda machine starts getting turned on. Anytime a Libya or a Syria or a Ukraine or a Palestine situation pops up, all of a sudden people get all squishy. Even if they might have really good values about social justice or social values or like, different things that they believe in. We need a big tent with pro-genocide and anti-genocide people. That's right. Orb Lady, you're not squishy in your midsection. Come on now. That's me. Okay? You're fine. I've seen the abs, okay? And DSA's power is in its local orgs. Depending on where they operate, they participate in anything from labor strikes to protecting people wanting to get an abortion. For sure. And a lot of the more you have all these different factions, like local wings of it that are super militant about a lot of these things, which is fantastic. Foreign policy is the clearest test of a left party's resolve and theoretical understanding, and there's no better example of that than Palestine, right? That's the whole like progressive accept Palestine. That's why that exists. And you see when that litmus test gets surpassed or you fail on that. And a lot of people fail. The guys who've been really surprising me are the Pod Johns. They aren't good on Palestine, but they've been going after Biden surprisingly harshly. Well, it's one of the things we've been talking about, this discrepancy between this like full support for this like brutality and then trying to still maintain this veneer of like progressivism or like talking about the rules-based order or human rights. Like even people that are not socialists or Marxists or like anti-imperialists or whatever are picking up on this like discrepancy here and being like, wait a second, what? You know, this contradiction. How are you talking about human rights and authoritarianism? We're supposed to care about Russia all the time, and we do, of course. We become these big like, let's make sure we're always talking about the authoritarianism and autocracy and human rights violations and imperialism of Russia, but then it's like when they see this happening and our government's totally fucking supporting it, people are like, huh, that's a little weird. Also, those guys would have no credibility whatsoever if they let them slide on this, and I'm sure even from a cynical perspective they understand that. Even a lot of libs can see that it's wrong, or at least feel in their gut that something is off. Well, and fucking Netanyahu's a big Trump guy. Like, for libs, like Trump and Netanyahu and that right-wing Zionist movement should be like linked. So there should be another party that has a different vision of that. And then they see their own party that they tie up so much of their identities in. They see they're in total agreement with Trump. It's like, you've been telling us over and over, Orange Man bad. And we're telling our audiences, Orange Man bad. Well, what would he be doing differently in this situation? If the answer is nothing at all, then it's like, what's not adding up here? What's going on? Totally forgot about the Uyghurs. Well, thankfully there's certain brave heroes on Twitch and other streaming platforms that are continuing to promote that and pursue that and make sure anyone that has asked questions about that is attacked and framed as being like a tanky or a genocide denier or whatever. Thankfully, some of our brave Twitch streamers are still brave enough to hold the light up to America's enemies. Okay, so nothing but respect from me for that. Bibi isn't the problem. Anyone else that could take power would do the same thing. I mean, yes, certainly, like, Netanyahu's not the only one that has those beliefs, like, in the Israeli government. Obviously, these, like, right-wing, extreme reactionary authoritarian Zionists, that's, like, a really powerful faction in the Israeli government, so I don't want to say that it's just Netanyahu, but he is certainly, like, just in terms of, like, his corruption, his, like, gangsterism, his racism, his, like, lust for genocide, like, there would be no better time for a Democratic administration to like pump the brakes ever so slightly on this like this relationship with U.S. and Israel. Like there's literally a audience that would be receptive of that. Like people would see them doing the right thing, but they can't do it because Biden is himself a full believer, hardcore reactionary Zionist himself. So that's why he's not doing that. Is RFK still being an absolute ghoul over this too? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this Mr. I'm against the deep state. I'm against imperialism. RFK. He's gonna put the cabal in their place, and of course another big time fucking Zionist himself. All our patriotic socialist friends and colleagues were lecturing us about that guy. Cornel West has been good. Cornel West is going to march for Palestinians, you know. Sanders is taking the principled stance of they have a little food and then get bombed. Fuck that guy forever. Yeah, humanitarian pause. You know what makes me sick? It's not just what Bernie's saying, but he is saying this. So, but the Harlan Crow thing was not good. I agree. This whole thing of like, there's a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, right? That's the two things that we need to talk about right now. Both sides here. Both sides. Hamas is bad and did massacres, and the second side, which is that there's this humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Those are the two bad things that we need to call out right now. Hamas killing people, and this humanitarian crisis, this vague humanitarian crisis that, how did it start? We don't know. I don't know. It just appeared one day. This humanitarian crisis just started. Who's responsible for it? Who's the victim of it? We don't know. We can't say. We're all looking for who's responsible. But we need a humanitarian pause because of this humanitarian crisis that's going on. It's like, give me a fucking break, you know? But those two are not linked in any way, and you can't ever suggest that the first thing is perhaps being caused by the second thing. We can't ever say that, you know? That's just way too much. That's way too much to ever say that the first thing is directly connected to the second thing. I don't understand. How can someone be for a pause? You do understand that if they get the little goods, IDF is just going to continue its genocide. Yeah, it seems like the idea of a humanitarian pause, which again, that's Bernie and the Biden administration are in full lockstep about this, like full agreement. And that's literally it. It's just like, well, let's stop bombing the women and kids and men and other civilians. Let's stop bombing them for a couple days to make sure we can get a little bit of food in, and then we're going to keep up the bomb. We're going to go back to the bombing. Like, that's your solution. Over 3,000 children have died. Like, that's your solution. We're going to pause the bombing for a couple days, get some food into Gaza, and then keep bombing the people that are trapped there. That's your solution. Like, Bungler wrote a Medium article that was more wishy-washy horseshit. I didn't bother reading the Medium article from, like, the hospital bomber in chief. I think there might have been some tepid criticism of Israel in there, but Obama did sign a massive 10-year aid deal with Israel right before he left office. So again, this is the progressive. These are the two sides of the American political spectrum. You have the progressive side that fully funds and supports Israel, but then feels bad about it, or the other side that doesn't feel bad. That's the difference. We'll fully fund and support you, but we're going to have maybe some tougher rhetoric. We're going to hand wring about it. We're going to bear witness to the suffering. And that's all. Otherwise, the policies are the exact same. The bombs are going to keep coming. The funding is not going to be interrupted. We're not going to do anything about the settlements. We're not going to do shit. We're not going to do shit except maybe say we're going to leak stories to the press that say behind the scenes we're working really hard to tell them not to kill civilians anymore. I guess the question I have is whether we should be pushing for our countries to overthrow Israel. Like, they wouldn't obviously, but hypothetically, would that be worse? I mean, if our countries were responsible for it, certainly, because all our countries ever do is install reactionary client regimes that are going to can continue to carry out our bidding. So, no, it would not be. But Israel overall should not continue to exist in its current form. The occupation has to stop. The people of Gaza have to be freed. There has to be no more occupation, no more apartheid, no more Israel. And for anyone that watches this stuff and gets mad about these kind of comments, what, can he say that? Can that guy say, what, can he really say that? And yeah, it's like, and I'm saying no more Israel. That doesn't mean no more Jews in that area or around the world. That's not something it's something I believe in or I have any interest in. But what that means is a single democratic state in which Jewish, Muslim, other Arab, Christian people can all live and have the same democratic rights. And I think Israel has so flagrantly violated international law and every sense of decency and morality for so long now that no, it should not continue to exist in that format. So I think there should be a democratic single state there where everyone can live, but I don't think that it should be Israel. Every Israeli citizen has travel visas and multiple homes they can leave. And that's for the people, for the Israeli settlers that say like, well, if we let free Palestine, then they're going to do to us what we did to them. If you really feel that way, well then, yeah, I think you should leave. I think you should just go back to where you came from. There's people that are born there. There's people that have spent their whole lives there. there's people that are interested in having a sort of democratic society and being neighbors with their, Arab communities and Muslim communities and Christian communities. And yeah, then they can all stay. They can stay, and everyone can work together on having a society where everyone's rights are respected and everyone has democracy and everyone has stability and security. But yeah, if you're that much of a genocidal fucking racist settler, yeah, I think you should just leave. I think you should just go home. Well, and that's the tricky thing. Ropes into Eden, 700,000 settlers, and they're the most unhinged ethno-nationalists. They will not move without force. I think that is the grim sort of reality that people need to confront when they talk about this. That's why there's no more two-state solution, right? Because you can't have a two-state solution now, because all the other land that was supposed to be the Palestinian state is now occupied by the most fucking hardcore ethno-nationalist settlers. So you can't have a two-state solution without forcibly now moving those people that live there, moving them out of there. And yeah, so that's what I mean. It's not simple. It's not uncomplicated. It doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy thing. But overall, what's also not easy is allowing the current reality to continue. Like that's only going to create more instability. It's only going to create more violence and misery for everybody. Less security for Jews, less security for Arabs and Muslims, less security for everybody, less security for the whole world. So regardless of how difficult it is, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, that is what needs to happen. Do you think Hamas needs to be removed? I think Israel needs to be removed. Hamas is a completely, I think, logical extension of what this violent occupation has done to people for now generations. I think Hamas is something that comes out of a desperate situation. It's a product of Israeli repression and apartheid. So I think if anyone is interested in removing Hamas, well, that's not going to happen until there's a complete change in the way that the whole nation is organized, whatever nation that it ends up being. And you can point this out as well. Let's just forget Israel created Hamas and promoted them. That's also because I've seen Palestinians pushing back on that idea as well and saying yeah, that's true, but it's also a little bit reductive to say that, because it's the reality is for many people in Palestine, they're the government, and if you're people if you're born in a fucking concentration camp and you live your whole life in a concentration camp, yeah, it's not surprising that you're going to turn to the people that are fighting back against the people that are keeping you in the concentration camp and being yeah, I support that. I think that's a totally understandable reaction. I saw that stat the other day that something like 80% of people that join Hamas are orphans, or they become these Hamas fighters. They're orphans because their families have been killed by Israeli bombings. No shit, they're joining Hamas. That's actually a totally normal thing to do, I think, in that totally horrific circumstance. Where would you make Israel go? I wouldn't make Israel go anywhere. I think Israel should cease to exist. And like I said, it should be replaced by a single democratic state where Jews, Muslims, Christians, and other communities can all just live together and have the same rights. And none of that is saying that I agree with everything. Like I said, it's an offshoot of a Muslim Brotherhood. Rania Khalek was talking about this yesterday. There's plenty of things that I, as a secular white person in fucking Canada, might criticize about something like Hamas. But I can still, because I understand history, I have a basic understanding of the history of Israel and Palestine, and I know a little bit about how the aspects of kind of colonialism and settler colonialism that Israel is founded on. So I think when you do understand these things, you can understand why an organization like Hamas would exist, or why people would support it or want to join it. Like, again, you're a kid, you grow up in a concentration camp, a 2 million person concentration camp. If sometimes your entire family, or at least part of your family, have been murdered and killed by the people that have been keeping you in the concentration camp for your whole life.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good
Is it
old
really,
Rob
really
to,
that
talk you
surprising?
through all this.
Is it really that surprising that someone that grows up in that environment is going to say, yeah, this seems like a good outlet for me? You know? Yes, I support what these people are doing, even when they do things that are monstrous, you know? Brian, thank you for the gifted sub. I appreciate that. It's crucial that the media leave out the context of Hamas, because it's sort of like, what would you do if you grew up in these conditions? I'm always trying to be very conscious of, again, being a very comfortable white settler here in Canada. Very conscious about criticizing people that have been under the boot of colonial occupation for entire generations, that have grown up in these desperate circumstances. I think it's really easy to judge people sitting there in your very comfortable situation. I think until you've lived in those actual conditions, it's chauvinistic to wag your finger. That's that colonialist mentality. You grow up in basically the most comfort that anyone can possibly live in almost human history, you know, and then you wag your finger about people that are living under this kind of brutal occupation for their entire lives, and you say, whoa, not like that. What are you doing? That's being violent. You're being violent. You gotta knock it off. Here, that's not how I would do it. You know, it's like, it's weird to me. Our whole society is based on not addressing or recognizing material conditions. Yeah, ultimately, and that's it. If you don't, if people have democratic rights and human rights,
all this.
Lots of folks are saying this society is busted.
Gone wrong. Thanks for 17 months of tier 1. And I agree. Many are saying that. Many people are saying that. You know, it's not a fucking rocket science, you know? If people have democratic rights and human rights and a decent standard of living and a place to live and a job and their material needs are being met, guess what? They're going to be less inclined to join violent extremist organizations. You know? It's actually not that complicated. People have a really difficult time wrapping their minds around this idea. You know, which is precisely why I actually support a state looking at extremism and terrorism, you know, and attacks on civilians, and saying, how do we resolve this problem? How do we resolve this crisis before it rips our whole society apart? Well, we're not going to just let that continue unabated, as like we have a right to like make choices that are going to limit this kind of like radicalism and terrorism happening in our society. But we're going to focus on education, on development, on improving people's living standards, you know, vocational training, making sure people have jobs, making sure people can have their beliefs respected and have their culture, but also make sure their material needs are being respected and promoted and increased. And maybe that's going to do something to limit the spread of this kind of like extremist ideology in our society. You know what? I actually think that's like a pretty, if you want to compare those two things, the Israeli method for dealing with terrorism and extremism, the US-Canada method, which is bombing and overthrowing all dozens of other countries and creating 32 million refugees, killing millions of people, versus the idea of like, let's try to attack this problem with education, investment, development, addressing people's material conditions. Yeah, I actually think that is the better option. That's the best way of going about these things. And ironically, in our society, that would make me a genocide denier. According to some fine folks in our media, and even some fine folks right here on twitch.tv, would accuse me of genocide denial for saying like, yeah, I think there's merit to that strategy of dealing with extremism and separatism and terrorism. Yeah, and that's the other thing, Globocop. Like every like left-wing and secular organization in the Arab world or anywhere else around the world that's popped up has been ruthlessly crushed and suppressed. So all that's left is like sectarian, religious extremists and hardliners. That's what's left. A lot of the time we were paying and financing and funding those people to overthrow the secular leftist types. And yet, lo and behold, that's what happened. And then you're looking around going like, why are we surrounded by all these sectarian extremist groups? How did this happen? It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in an enigma. There's no way of knowing how this happened. Like, it's just ridiculous. This is what it is living in the West. This constant like freaking out about problems that we created, that we deliberately created in an effort to secure complete iron-fisted hegemony over the entire world so that a few fucking loser families can profit from it, create all these crises as a result of that, and then we look around at all these crises and just say, what's going on here? What is this? It's just so silly. What are we doing? We still don't even see it after something like 9/11 happens as a result. Exactly, 9/11 happens and it's like, what? What? How did this happen? And then, of course, just like after 9/11, just like right now, when someone says, well, I think this happened because of our own actions. I think our own actions caused this. And it's like, jail. Go to jail. You just lost your job. I hope you're happy. When someone points this out, what should just be like a basic uncontroversial fact. I think we caused this with our own actions. Go to jail. You just lost your job, sir. You're now homeless. Anecdotally, people I know who are not political are 100% supportive of Palestine now. You see people like Barry Weiss freaking out about TikTok as well, to the point that I'm sure TikTok is going to be censored at one point. Just because, this is the amazing thing about people like Barry Weiss, they fucking pretend to care about something called the marketplace of ideas. They care about their precious marketplace of ideas. But soon as the marketplace of ideas, which is of course completely owned and operated by powerful special interests and capitalists who own the press. And then as soon as different voices and analyses and viewpoints get added to that marketplace of ideas, they're like, what is this? This is cheating. This is cheating. There's all these kids now that are saying that dropping bombs on Palestinian kids is bad. What's going on? It must be a conspiracy. It must be China doing like a conspiracy to brainwash people to think that bombing kids is bad. We got to censor this. We got to silence this. It's quite literally just like, this is your marketplace of ideas in action. More people now, because of some of these platforms, such as Twitch, such as TikTok, whatever other social media platform, all of a sudden have access to different ideas that are not part of our marketplace of ideas. Because our marketplace of ideas, like I said, is completely owned and operated by powerful capitalists that have a very, and Chomsky talks about this a lot, has a very strict guideline of like what is involved in this marketplace of ideas, this spectrum of different ideas that you're allowed to talk about. And all of a sudden there's different ways of people accessing ideas that are outside that very narrow confine. And people are like, I'm now getting information for the first time about like police violence, about Israel dropping bombs on Palestinian kids, about American foreign policy and history. And it's like, I actually don't support that. I don't support these things at all. And people like Barry Weiss are just like, what? Ban this. Ban this. They care so much about free speech in the marketplace of ideas. They're like, we got to get rid of this. Get this out of here. You can say what you like because we like what you say. Love that one. For Weiss and Co., the marketplace of ideas is supposed to be just like the actual marketplace, completely controlled by monopolist parties using it to sell their own products and crushing everyone else. For sure, it's part of the sort of capitalist mindset. Capitalist mentality.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Hey, what's up?
Risk Inverse. Thanks for 29 months, Tier 1. Thank you. Well, that's the thing about Barry Weiss as well, and people like that. Like they want to have this viewpoint, and they're still acting like they're the victims, that they're the marginalized voice, that it's just so dangerous and impossible to speak up about. It's about supporting Israel. That's the amazing thing, is they've got everything that they wanted. Like they have, like, in all of our media, there's this total consensus that we always have to support Israel no matter what. There's a total consensus about Hamas being a violent, bad terror organization, that every single person that talks about the subject has to make sure they repeat this mantra to like make people comfortable. Like they've got everything that they want. They've got Israel has full right, according to the United States and every other Western country, to commit whatever crime they want, never held accountable. And like they still act like they're the victim and they're the marginalized person. And they're so like some kind of iconoclast, whenever they're part of a discourse and part of a sort of geopolitical situation where everything is fully stacked in their favor for their exact specific viewpoint. And they're still like, I'm a victim. I'm being victimized. I'm being victimized by kids on TikTok learning that it's wrong to drop bombs on kids' heads. I'm the victim of that. Yeah, it is the exact same thing with MAGA types and trucker convoy protesters. They just have everything that they want, but they want to be victims. It's this perpetual victimization complex. All the institutional control, and I'm the victim. I'm the marginalized person. I'm the iconoclast. Yeah. Hello, Lodane. Anytime Barry Weiss comes up in the context of marketplace of ideas, hey, Oscar, it's worth reminding people that she first gained notoriety a decade ago on college campuses by creating blacklists for any academics with even any minor criticism of Israel, attempting to get them fired, often successfully. So much for free speech warriors. Yeah. Well, that's the whole, Norm Finkelstein as well. You'd think that the ideological dark web, or was it the intellectual dark? That's a Freudian slip if I've ever heard one. The intellectual dark web. Fortunately, they're not messing around with that bullshit anymore. That was always so fucking painful. You'd think, though, that the intellectual dark web, if they're so concerned with these ideas of free speech and being canceled and censored or whatever, would support Norm Finkelstein for having his career totally torpedoed for making this kind of commentary. But they don't care because they agree. They agree that his career should be ruined for making these kinds of statements. And that goes to anyone that's going to criticize Israel in any way. That's how much they care about these values of free speech or whatever. One of the people chiefly responsible for Finkelstein being ostracized is Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan. So, well, I mean, that's just an example of why you need to vote for Democrats so they can appoint these justices. Because when conservative presidents appoint justices like Elena Kagan, then, sorry what I'm hearing from my producer right now. I'm being told that she was actually an Obama appointee. So, I'm going to correct the record on that one. Neoliberal insanity is wielding all the power in the world, but not understanding that and thinking that the real power is the immaterial fact of what people think about you, which is also the one thing you can never control. It's why Twitter has melted so many people's brains that are part of those kind of power structures. Yeah, we looked at that yesterday. Oh, did we? Or is this a different thing? It's another Freudian slip. Yeah. They can't. I feel like this is happening more and more. Like, not just with Israel, but with like everyone. With Biden, with Trudeau. Remember? Trudeau, we're a company. All these people, the people in these big power structures, they keep saying true things by accident.
That since October the 7th, the focus. I'm also upset that since October the 7th, the focus at the moment is on the other side. People are trying to suggest that there is some sort of moral equivalence. There is no moral equivalence. We are not the victims.
Couldn't agree more. You know? Sometimes they come out and say the right thing, and you got to appreciate that when it happens. Here's this fucking Barry Weiss thing, though. I don't think I'm blocked by Barry Weiss. Look at this psychotic shit from Barry Weiss. Why do young Americans support Hamas? Look at TikTok. In the free press. Oh, is this her independent, like, intellectual dark web, the free speech thing? In the free press, Rep. Mike Gallagher argues that the app is digital fentanyl made by China. It's brainwashing our youth against the country and against our allies. And again, it's literally just young people learning the reality of American history. Like, learning about history. And this comes up sometimes. This is why I will always appreciate the work that Eddie does, Eddie Liger, because he does really good TikTok videos about imperialism and American history. And I think a lot of people have seen those. And they're 100% factual. Like, people are just seeing the reality of the Israeli occupation for what it is, and not the version that's presented to us in our mainstream media. You know, people are seeing the reality of the violence and devastation and brutality of America and its allies. You know, it's brainwashing against our youth, against our country and our allies. Like, maybe you can make that argument because it's showing them what we do around the world. It's showing them what we do around the world. In Israel, Palestine, it's, you know, in Afghanistan, Iraq, throughout American history. It's just with police violence, with the way that, like, social murder and the violence of the state towards Americans, the way that happens, the way it affects people. It's literally just giving people a viewpoint into what the kind of depravity of our Western culture and the hypocrisy of our Western values. And people like Barry Weiss that's the marketplace of ideas in effect. People are getting access to different ideas, but Barry Weiss has no interest in that. Isn't a common defense of Israeli military blockade of Gaza and parts of the West Bank that Hamas and the PFLP would get access to supplies they would use to kill civilians and settlers if the blockade ended? Yeah, I mean, it's a common defense of blowing up apartment blocks in Gaza that Hamas has tunnels under the buildings and under the hospitals and schools and refugee camps. And that's why they need to blow up the hospitals and schools and refugee camps. That doesn't mean that it's a good thing, though, and they should continue doing it. Yeah, that's a common... we hear the common defenses. We hear all kinds of common defenses about why they need to have the blockade and why they need to have the occupation and why they need to do the things they do. That doesn't mean that we need to take it seriously. I did smile and nod politely. I did see that, actually. I retweeted it, actually, because I always appreciate VJ weighing in on our wretched country. And again, if you don't want extremist groups organizing and attacking people, then you have to end your occupation, end the apartheid system, give people back their democratic rights, give them a right to return to their homes. There's people that are born in Jerusalem that are not able to go back to their homes. Give people democratic rights and human rights, allow the right of return, allow people to live lives of dignity, help people increase their material conditions, and then they won't join terrorist groups. It's not that complicated. A new Hezbollah speech video. Jesus, they're doing the 24 thing now? Jesus. They are really milking this. They got the bombs from Inception trailer. Jesus. This new Christopher Nolan movie looks great. Yeah. They keep dropping teaser trailers. Jesus. I'm pretty interested in what Nasrallah is going to say now, if there's been a lot of anticipation. There's been a lot of anticipation about this. I'm wondering where this is going to go. What are they going to announce tomorrow? I don't know, that they've captured one of the Infinity Stones, maybe. I'm not sure. Isn't the criticism of the right of return that if Arab Muslims had a majority, that Jewish people would become a persecuted minority? I mean, all you're doing is just making arguments to justify why apartheid needs to continue. Is like, what's the purpose of doing that? Yeah, I've heard the criticisms. If you have to maintain your democratic majority through violent repression and colonialism, well, then you don't have a real majority. Your whole state is fake and is completely predicated on brutal violence on people in order to continue existing. We know what the arguments are. We know the justifications. We don't agree with. You don't have to agree with them. Yeah, this is all the exact same fucking concerns that people have had throughout any colonialist enterprise throughout history. And the fact is that they'll never ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. They won't. Because people will, as we've shown throughout history, time and time again, people will fight to defend their homeland harder than anyone that's coming from fucking Brooklyn or Pittsburgh or wherever else. Even with all the advantages and even with the army and even with all the funding and everything that they have. And minority rights are important, so giving Muslim people a majority democratic voice if they don't agree to protect the minority rights there is fucked up. Okay, but this is a hypothetical scenario you're describing. None of that should be in any way an argument to continue the system of grotesque apartheid and violence that's been ongoing there now for 70 years. And Jews lived there long before Israel ever existed. And if and when Israel does cease to exist, Jews are going to continue to live in that region. Like you can say, well, the common argument to support the Vietnam War is that they believe that if Vietnam goes completely communist, then it's going to lead to a domino theory of other nations around the world becoming communist. And it's like, okay, we get what the argument is. Yeah, that's a common argument. That doesn't mean that it's right or that we have to listen to it. And either way, even if it was a domino effect that was going to lead to other states becoming socialist, that doesn't justify dropping napalm on villages full of children, which is what America was doing with the exact same mentality and the exact same justification. None of these hypothetical arguments invalidate the brutal violence that Israel has been perpetrating for 70 years. If you're concerned regarding a free Palestine, we could also create a new Israel, the ancestral homeland of Israelis, Brooklyn. Or they could go to Germany, okay? You can go and move to Germany. Germany is very, very supportive of Zionism, so I'm sure Germany would have no problem volunteering to give up large portions of their land to establish a Jewish ethno-state. Germany feels so terrible about its crimes against Jewish people during the Holocaust that I'm sure Germany would have no problem with that. Okay, Applesaucer69, you're not being serious, are you? You're not being serious. So basically mass displacement of a group of people from where they actually currently exist. You understand, though, that that's what's happening right now at this moment, though, right? Like, you get that, right? You understand that, right? Like, Israel right now is doing ethnic cleansing like you're describing right now at this exact moment. Right? Like, you get that. That's what's been going on in Israel for 70 years. The whole Nakba. This is not new. This is not new information. This is literally what's been going on for 70 years. And right now they're carpet bombing a concentration camp that's like 40% children. There's no excuse or justification for that. But if we give land back, all the white people in Oklahoma will die. It's the exact same reactionary framing every time. That's how you know it's about colonialism. It's not about ethnicity or religion or anything like that. It's about land and power. But if we don't stop this ethnic cleansing, then a hypothetical ethnic cleansing might happen. Like, that's what you sound like when you make this kind of argument. We have to continue this situation of grotesque apartheid and ethnic cleansing and genocide. Otherwise, maybe, possibly, in my imagination, a ethnic cleansing might happen. Like, come on. Let's be real here. It's time to grow up here. We've all got to grow up at some point. Addressing the harm caused by their crimes might be really bad for criminals. It's true. Yeah, that's absolutely right. When you've spent 70 years doing a lot of crimes, then you might be kind of worried about being held accountable for some of those crimes. I get it. And look at this ideological lockstep in the U.S. government. Here's Hakeem Jeffries. So even he's talking to Wolf Blitzer on the same day of this refugee camp bombing. Wolf Blitzer, who was like almost stunned at this IDF guy admitting to him that they bombed this refugee camp, knowing that it's filled with civilians to get one Hamas guy. Do you think maybe the Democratic leader might have something to say about that? I don't know. Let's see.
So did you think that Israel violated that law today in attacking that Palestinian refugee camp in the hopes of killing a top Hamas leader?
I'm unfamiliar with the particulars on the strike, and so I'll reserve judgment, but I know that Israel is taking every effort to continue to conduct this necessary war following the international rules of warfare.
Look at the video image on the screen with what he just said. I know they're taking every precaution, but you don't know that. Everyone can see, everyone around the world, including your own fucking constituents, can see that that is not the case. That is not true. I know they're taking every step. We're just talking about the bombing of a refugee camp with which an IDF guy admitted to Wolf Blitzer that they bombed this camp knowing that it was filled with civilians to go after one Hamas guy that they couldn't even say whether they got. And then you have the same day, the leader of the Democrats saying, I'm going to withhold judgment. We know that they're taking every step to protect people and to follow international law. Like, what do you even say about that? What can you possibly say? What is Israel going to do that's going to make someone like Hakeem Jeffries, who's an AIPAC guy, an AIPAC all-star, what is going to happen? What can they possibly do that's going to make him go, this is wrong, this is bad, I disagree that they're doing this? How can you sit there on TV? And also someone, Hakeem Jeffries, who's used his identity to position himself as being some big progressive champion. Again, you see people of color at the leading the communication strategy, not only in America but around the world, in any of these kind of neoliberal Western countries. And then using their identity to suggest that there's some kind of progressive person or some evidence of some progress that's happening. And then you're going on TV and being asked about bombing a refugee camp that was filled with hundreds of civilians to go after one Hamas guy that they don't even know if they got. And then you fucking sit there and say, well, I don't know, I'm going to reserve judgment. And I know they're doing everything they can to protect people. Like, what is... That's a cognitive dissonance that I can't... It's breaking my brain to even think about. Honestly. I know they're doing everything that they can. Bombing refugee camp. I know they're doing everything they can to protect people. They killed hundreds of people so they could maybe get one Hamas guy. I know they're trying to follow the rules of war. Like... And this is the marketplace of ideas in American society. There you have Hakeem Jeffries, and then you have U.S. Rep. Brian Mast. Here's the other side of that ideological spectrum, that marketplace of ideas. Here's the other side. And when you go to election season, you can choose one of these two teams, one of these two sides.
As a whole, I would encourage the other side to not so lightly throw around the idea of innocent Palestinian civilians, as is frequently said. I don't think we would so lightly throw around the term innocent Nazi civilians during World War II. As a whole.
So there's your two sides in the American political spectrum. And you're comparing Palestinians to Nazis who had an army, you know? They had an army and tanks and vast resources versus people that grow up and living in a concentration camp who don't have an army and who don't have shit. And drawing this comparison between civilians in Gaza and civilians in like Berlin or somewhere else during Nazi era Germany. That's the ideological spectrum. But don't worry though. Joe Biden, the Biden administration, they seize you and they hear you and they're ready to act now. They're ready to act. So this is amazing too. Let's look at this. This is Biden. It seems like they might have had a look at some poll numbers in places like Michigan. They're seeing how deeply unpopular this again, and it's not surprising that it's deeply unpopular considering how unpopular Netanyahu is and how like horrifying everything that everyone is seeing right now is. They're realizing, oh shit, might have to do something here. So let's talk about, so they're going to continue the bombing. They're going to continue fully supporting Israel no matter what. They're going to continue going to give Netanyahu like nice hugs and kisses no matter what he does. But then at the same time, they're going to do this.
Our nation was founded on the fundamental principle that all people should have the freedom to live, to worship, and to be without fear of violence or persecution. Every person has the right to live safe from violence, hate, and bigotry. And for those reasons and so many more, President Joe Biden and I have a duty, not only to keep the people of our nation safe, but to condemn unequivocally and forcefully all forms of hate. Since we took office, President Biden and I have fought to uphold that duty.
And by the way, that hate includes people that march and support Palestine.
And attacks on houses of worship. So in response, we expanded funding to protect houses of worship from violence. After a surge in hate during the pandemic, in particular anti-Asian hate, President Biden,
which they also promote with their nonstop xenophobic saber rattling as well.
Reporting of hate crimes, and to ensure hate crimes are investigated quickly and thoroughly. Earlier this year, in response to an historic rise in anti-Semitic attacks, we also released the first national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. And to make clear,
no, it's amazing. Mercurial shroom.
Priority.
This is going to do it.
And I held the first White House
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And we
Thank you, Diego, for the gifted sub.
Community leaders and survivors to continue our work to keep all Americans safe. And today, we take another important step.
We're going to keep bombing Gaza into the ground, but we're doing this.
For years, Muslims in America and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel,
and of course, you got to frame it like this as well. The Hamas, again, let's see that one more time. Let's just see that one more time. This is the rhetorical trick they're using.
As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
The Hamas attacks on Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, which just happened. It's just something that's just going on. We don't know what happened with that. We just turned around one day and there was this magical humanitarian crisis happening and we said, what? What's this? This is not going to work on anybody. Like, they are fucked. I really think that they're fucked. And again, like this is another common thing I'm seeing on TikTok. People are feeling like, oh, don't you know about like Project 2024 or whatever it is? And it's like, who? Like, if they're not going to do anything to stop it, then like, how's that anyone else's responsibility? As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis, which is, again, I'm sorry, indistinguishable from Bernie's position. Indistinguishable.
Terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, we have seen an uptick in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic incidents across America, including the brutal attack of a Palestinian-American woman who was Muslim and the killing of her 6-year-old son. A senseless act.
We're going to continue this humanitarian crisis. We're going to keep funding it.
Investigating as a hate crime.
But again, we feel so bad about it. That's the difference, right? We feel really bad about it.
The past few days and weeks have brought about all too familiar fears. Fears that they will be targeted, profiled, or attacked.
Hang on one sec.
Because of who they are, how they worship, or how they look. And so today, I am proud to announce the Biden-Harris administration will develop our nation's first national strategy to counter Islamophobia. This strategy will be a comprehensive and detailed plan to protect Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim from hate, bigotry, and violence, and to address the concern that some government policies may discriminate against Muslims. For example, the so-called Muslim ban, which President Biden
We're forming an exploratory committee to examine the impact. We're forming an exploratory committee in response to the genocide that we're enabling. We see you, we hear you, and we're forming an exploratory committee to consider studying the possibility of Islamophobia in our society. And we're thrilled to announce that if you open a small business in an Arab neighborhood that's under the median income for the U.S. and operate your small business for 3 years, you will get a small tax credit. Is that enough? We're going to continue the genocide, though, but what about that? What if you do that? And also it's sending another $30 billion to Israel while they continue blowing up children.
So here's the bottom line. In America, no one should be made to fight hate alone. And in this moment, then, let us all clearly say, a harm against
it's the Democrats. It's just the most it's the most liberal thing you can imagine. It's just beyond parody at this point. What can you even say about it? You know, we hear your lived experience. We hope you feel seen. Also, I'm going to murder more children. Exactly. But again, we'll give you maybe like a tax break somehow. So it's means tested, of course. Of course, it will be means tested. Let's not get crazy here. On Zanny's because she's freaking out behind the scenes. I do hope so as well. Yeah, this is the liberal. We're looking into this very strongly. Exactly. And this is the interesting thing about this moment right now is that I think more than ever in my lifetime, as long as I've been paying attention to this stuff, which is now going on like 20 years, basically. 2004 was the first like U.S. election that I really like paid close attention to. And I think for the first time in my life, this is really not landing. Like people are just completely rejecting this now because they see through it, right? It's like people really see through this. This is not going to work. We're forming a study to determine the future profits from Barack Obama's inevitable Netflix docuseries, David vs. Goliath, How Israel Defeated Hamas and Saved Gaza. You'll be donating 10% of the proceeds from that to orphans in Gaza. You're welcome. Yeah, like these Arab communities and Muslim communities that have rejected the Democrats over this are not going to be won over by this. Like it's so transparent, it's so hollow. And if you want to look at what the Canadian liberal viewpoint is, we can take a look at that as well. Justin Trudeau yesterday. What a joke that is.
Condemn Hamas's abuse. We, of course, continue to unequivocally condemn Hamas's
Yeah, we heard the first time.
terrorism, and Israel has the right to defend itself. But the price of justice cannot be...
See, it's coming with a but now. This is after 30 days of this barbarity. And again, he's probably seeing some polling numbers as well. They're starting to now equivocate a little bit as well. But of course, you start off your equivocation and your supposed support for Palestinian humanity with, of course, we condemn the violence of Hamas and we fully support Israel's right to defend itself. Only if they do this in this completely fantasyland version of defending themselves that they've never once done in their entire history.
Terrorism, and Israel has the right to defend itself. But the price of justice cannot be the continued suffering of all...
Well, that's what's happening, Justin. So, that's what's going on.
Deeply concerned by
Deeply concerned.
catastrophic impact on the population in Gaza, particularly on children, which is why we are calling for...
He's starting to do the drama teaser, particularly on children. You are sir, you're wearing your fucking poppy and you're paying for the bombs that are being dropped on these children that you pretend to care about. And you started off your whole statement by saying Israel has full right to continue doing what it's doing. So, what's the fucking issue? It's hard to boost the volume because the last couple of videos have just been kind of quiet volume. ML Thought is, he's speaking very solemnly here. He's very solemn. But again, there's no excuse for this after 30 days. But that can't come at the what does he say? The price of justice cannot come at the cost of all Palestinians. But that is what is happening. That is what you've been supporting for the last 30 days.
Humanitarian aid and water and fuel to flow into Gaza. We're calling on humanitarian pauses to allow that to happen.
Humanitarian pauses, then the bombing will continue.
Hostages, on aid to flow in, and on Canadians and
with
their
his
families
poppy
to get out of Gaza through the Rafah crossing.
Why did you tell them
positive things. We, of course.
So this is the liberal. Now they're starting to hedge a little bit. Again, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's like they get to the point. It's like, well, we're very concerned. That's pretty much as good as you can hope for. We're deeply concerned. We need to pause the bombing for a few days to get some food and water and fuel in there, and then continue the bombing. So this is our liberal ruling class. This is our liberal, progressive, rules-based order. And then you have the NDP. And I will say this, I'll say this is a positive step. I don't want to just completely shit on this. The entire federal NDP caucus has written to the Prime Minister to demand Canada call for a ceasefire today. So, that's certainly better than nothing. The idea that it took 30 days to come together on this, still, if you're supposed to be like a social democratic party, is still pathetic, though. And whatever kind of credibility you might have on this, you have diluted through your treatment of one of your MPPs who correctly, the day this happened, called for the violence to stop and correctly framed the violence in being rooted in settler colonialism and apartheid, Sarah Jammeh. So your whatever credibility the NDP might have for calling for a ceasefire now has been completely diluted by the fact that they censored and kicked one of their own MPPs out of their caucus in Ontario for saying the correct thing on day 1 rather than on day 30. So excuse me if I'm not like that impressed by this move. 4 weeks. Like, again, it was clear to everyone. It was regime pilled. It was clear to you. It was clear to me. It was clear to everyone in this community because we pay attention to this conflict. We pay attention to what's been happening in Palestine. It was clear, obviously, what was going to happen on day 1. And on day 30, for our Social Democratic Party to be like, okay, now we're very concerned and we need to have a ceasefire. It's like, what the? It's been a month. 3,400 dead children, dead Palestinian children. And that's when the NDP in Canada says, okay, we think that's about enough. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not good enough. It's not good enough. All of the people who argue that we don't have enough influence to make crazy, wacky Israel to stop, if we had stopped shipping the multi-ton bombs on day 1, Israel would have undoubtedly run out of weapons by now. Yeah, I mean, for the United States, there's no question. The United States could have stopped this right now. Joe Biden or Anthony Blinken or whoever else needs to call up Benjamin Netanyahu and say, like, stop the bombs now or no more $4 billion a year, whatever the number is. Certainly no more big $30 billion aid package or whatever the massive number of money that you're asking for right now. Ceasefire now or that you get cut off, and it would stop right away. It would stop right away. And even Canada, we fund Israel to the tune of like, no more Iron Dome interceptors. Excuse me. So Canada, like we send Israel several $1 million every year. Maybe not the same extent. We couldn't maybe completely stop this attack from happening. But that doesn't, like, that's just not being able to stop is not an excuse to not act either. Like, we should be recalling diplomats. We should be closing the embassy. We should be cutting off aid. We should be unequivocally going in the media and using our role as being a junior partner in the rules-based order of the Anglo-American Empire and saying, see, no, we're against this. We oppose this. Like, that is something you could do. And whether you can stop that or not, that's still being on the right side of history, and it's still taking a moral stance that would actually have meaning and impact. Yeah, I mean, small, cute frog. It's something that we talk about a lot in this community and on this show. It's just another American state in this context. And that's what I mean. It's like you've got the U.S. empire, the Anglo-American empire, the rules-based order, whatever you want to call it. It's a global, international criminal cartel. America's the mafia boss, and then we're one of the henchmen. We're one of the junior partners. And Israel is one of the really extremely violent henchmen that you really unleash when you want to send a message to somebody. But we're part of a global mafia, and we're a junior partner in that. So no, we don't have an independent foreign policy. Yeah, he's the crazy guy. And again, it's the good cop, bad cop thing as well, to make that analogy. And, cops are organized criminals as well. I'm going to try and... I'm sorry, my partner's having a really bad day. He's been beating on you for a while. I apologize. I'm going to get him out of the room. I'm going to bring you a cup of coffee. I'm going to bring you some water. Now, if you don't want... Like, I don't know how much longer I can control this guy, so you got to start talking to me. You got to start giving up some things, I don't know how much longer I can keep him out there. It's almost a joke at this point. It's a fucking cliche. It's a trope that you see in bad movies. Like, this is how we operate. Really? No, that's really exactly what it is. NDP just got a huge amount of blowback from their constituents saying you're a lost cause and I'm never voting NDP again, or something along those lines. So they were forced to do something like this to be pushed into complete irrelevancy. Appealing to centrists is pretty useless if your entire base of support dries up. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Even on the Israel issue, I have a lot of criticisms for Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh has been not that bad. Like the NDP has been improving on Israel stuff over the last couple of years, even though they've historically been very, very bad on it. But they've failed to meet the moment on this. So despite whatever progress has been made, they failed to apply that when the pressure got turned up, which is when it's important, you know? That's when it's important to take a brave stance. It's easy to take like a stance to say like Israel needs to knock it off, you know, when Palestinians are being just perfect victims. When the pressure gets turned on and there's a big pressure to support Israeli violence in Gaza or wherever else, that's when it's more important than ever to take this stance. And they did not do that. Like that's what I said. That like the first stream after October 7th, when the first stream after that happened, it's really easy to stand with Palestinians in like normal times when they're just perfect victims. It's much more difficult when the pressure gets turned on, and when things start to actually happen and people start dying, and the propaganda machine gets turned on, and personal and professional consequences start coming down the pike.
You
for
can count
taking
on
these
me. You're gonna
stances.
have good old Rob
But you got to do
talk
it.
you through all this.
That's the most important. Like, what's the point then? That's the time that you have to take those stances, whether you're a political party or just an average person in his fucking office talking into a microphone. That's the important time to take those stances. Diego, thank you for another gifted sub. This is really interesting as well. This thing from President Harry Truman. You say, how can you talk about it's racist or it's anti-Semitic to say that Israel is doing ethnic cleansing? If you say that, it means you hate Jews and you want them to die and you support Nazis or whatever it is. How dare you say that it's a part of it? How dare you say it's ethnic cleansing? Well, don't take my word for it. Here's U.S. President Harry Truman.
We had several other people in the country, even among the Jews, the Zionists particularly, who were against anything that was to be done if they couldn't have the whole of Palestine and everything handed to them on a silver plate so they wouldn't have to do anything. It couldn't be done. We had to take it in small doses. You can't move 5 or 6 million people out of a country and fill it up with 5 or 6 million more and expect both sets of them to be pleased.
49.
But don't think that decision to recognize Israel is an easy one. I had to make a compromise with the Arabs and divide Palestine. The Jews wanted to chase all the Arabs into the Tigris and Euphrates River, and the Arabs wanted to chase all the Jews into the Red Sea. And what I was trying to do was to find a homeland for the Jews and still be just with the Arabs. We had several other...
He admitted it. That was Harry Truman, former President Harry Truman. It's about time I can probably put on a video or something. I saw Ta-Nehisi Coates on Democracy Now!, which seemed like a really good interview. Have a better idea. Give it part of Canada, Europe, or the USA, or fucking Germany, like I keep saying.
As pressure builds for
Germany, they feel so bad about the whole Nazi thing, the whole Holocaust thing. Germany feels so bad. That's why they have to support Israel doing ethnic cleansing to Palestinians because they just feel so bad about the Holocaust. If you feel that bad, put Israel in your own country. If you're looking for content, question period is going to start in about 25 to 30 minutes as well. Okay, that's a good tip. Stu, I'm going to try and get through this Ta-Nehisi Coates interview. And I think it's interesting to hear from him as well, because I think this is a common sentiment that you hear, that the reality of this issue gets presented as being complex or incomprehensible. But when you actually if you go and experience this for yourself and spend time with Palestinian people and see how they're meant to live, it's all of a sudden like, oh, this is actually way more clear than it's made out to be. That's kind of the interesting point that Ta-Nehisi Coates is making in this.
For a ceasefire after 27 days of Israel's bombardment of Gaza, we spend the rest of the hour with the acclaimed author and journalist Ta-Nehisi Coates. This summer, he spoke at a literary festival in the West Bank that connected the Palestinian struggle with decolonization struggles around the world. In Ramallah, he opened his remarks with a comparison between the struggle of African Americans and Palestinians. In recent weeks, Coates joined dozens of other writers and artists in signing an open letter from participants in the Palestine Festival of Literature that was published in the New York Review of Books, and called for, quote, the international community to commit to ending the catastrophe unfolding in Gaza and to finally pursuing a comprehensive and just political solution in Palestine.
Last night, Ta-Nehisi Coates participated in another event hosted by organizers of the Palestine Festival of Literature, or PALFest, in the James Chapel at Union Theological Seminary here in New York City. It was called But We Must Speak, on Palestine and the Mandates of Conscience. Ta-Nehisi is the recipient of a prestigious MacArthur Fellowship and the recipient of numerous prizes, including the National...
I think I know what you're talking about, Gone Wrong, the Fetterman quote. I saw Felix from Chapo Trapos shared it. Really just an inspiring speaker, the soaring rhetoric of John Fetterman. I think Israel should just do what it needs to do. Thank you, sir. Amazing. Very inspiring stuff.
Book Award.
That is a good look for Amy.
His book,
I agree.
Between the World and Me. We Were 8 Years in Power is another book, An American Tragedy, and his memoir, The Beautiful Struggle. His novel is titled The Water Dancer. In 2014, he wrote an award-winning cover story for The Atlantic magazine, headlined The Case for Reparations. Ta-Nehisi, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us under extremely difficult circumstances. Last night, this remarkable event almost didn't happen. I mean, it was in the James Chapel of Union Theological Seminary, but venue after venue had said no to this gathering, and without almost any publicity. Well over 1,000 people turned out, but the place only held 300, so people went over across the street to another place of 300, overthrow, and then thousands watched on the live video stream. Can you talk about your experience being in the West Bank, going to the occupied territories, and how it changed you?
Oh, wow. I spent 10 days in Palestine,
really like to go.
in the occupied territories and in Israel proper. I've had the great luxury over the past 10 years of seeing a few countries. I have not spent more time or seen more of another country or another territory than I did this summer. I think what shocked me the most was in any sort of opinion piece or reported piece or whatever you want to call it that I've read about Israel and about the conflict with the Palestinians, there's a word that comes up all the time, and it is complexity. That and its closely related adjective, complicated. And so while I had my skepticisms and I had my suspicions of the Israeli government, of the occupation, what I expected was that I would find a situation in which it was hard to discern right from wrong. It was hard to understand the morality at play. It was hard to understand the conflict. And perhaps the most shocking thing was I immediately understood what was going on over there. Probably the best example I can think of is the second day when we went to Hebron, and the reality of the occupation became clear. We were driving out of East Jerusalem. I was with the Palestinian, was with PalFest, and we were driving out of East Jerusalem into the West Bank, and you could see the settlements, and they would point out the settlements, and it suddenly dawned on me that I was in a region of the world where some people could vote and some people could not.
Cynthia, I will say, like, you talk about that criticism from Cornel West, who called Coates neoliberal face of the black freedom struggle like 5 years ago. I think I don't want to litigate that too much. He does seem, from in my understanding, to be someone who has been like open to actually evolving and embracing some of these different sort of revolutionary struggles, which I think is more than most people can say. You don't, again, they let you say what you like because they like what you say. I think there is a reason that he became, especially during the Obama era, this kind of like really sought after voice as both an author and a commentator. You understand kind of why that is, maybe, but I do I think I agree, Kate Chewy, like it shows his aptitude to grow and change, and I do think a lot of his criticism and a lot of his writing and commentary was really good as well during the Obama administration, but maybe there were certain gaps in that or blind spots. You could maybe make that argument as well. I don't want to criticize Ta-Nehisi Coates too much as someone who I think has done a lot to promote really important ideas of social justice, has done a lot to do that. Yeah, we all had him for sure, Sean. I did as well, and still do.
And we got out as a group of writers, and we were given a tour by a Palestinian guide. And we got to a certain street, and he said to us, "I can't walk down this street. If you want to continue, you have to continue without me." And that was shocking to me. And we walked down the street, and we came back, and there was a market area. Hebron is very, very poor. It wasn't always very poor, but it is very, very poor. Its market area has been shut down. But there are a few vendors there that I wanted to support. And I was walking to try to get to the vendor, and I was stopped at a checkpoint. Checkpoints all through the city. Checkpoints obviously all through the West Bank. Your mobility is completely inhibited, and the mobility of the Palestinians is totally inhibited. And I was walking to the checkpoint, and an Israeli guard stepped out, probably about the age of my son. And he said to me, "What's your religion, bro?" And I said, "Well, I'm not really religious." And he said, "Come on, stop messing around. What is your religion?" I said, I'm not playing. I'm not really religious. And it became clear to me that unless I professed my religion and the right religion, I wasn't going to be allowed to walk forward. So he said, "Well, okay, so what was your parents' religion?" I said, "Well, they weren't that religious either."
Papers, please.
He says, what were your grandparents' religion?" And I said, "My grandmother was a Christian." And then he allowed me to pass. And it became very, very clear to me what was going on there. And I have to say, it was quite familiar. Again, I was in a territory where your mobility is inhibited, where your voting rights are inhibited, where your right to the water is inhibited, where your right to housing is inhibited, and it's all inhibited based on ethnicity. And that sounded extremely, extremely familiar to me. And so the most shocking thing about my time over there was how uncomplicated it actually is. Now, I'm not saying the details of it are not complicated. History is always complicated. Present events are always complicated. But the way this is reported in the Western media is as though one needs a PhD in Middle Eastern studies to understand the basic morality of holding a people in a situation in which they don't have basic rights, including the right that we treasure most, the franchise, the right to vote, and then declaring that state a democracy. is actually not that hard to understand. It's actually quite familiar to those of us with a familiarity to African American history.
Well, Ta-Nehisi Coates, last night you were asked about the significance of Martin Luther King's words on Vietnam. You said it's taken you years to, quote, understand nonviolence as an ethic, and that you understood that ethic in Israel. Could you explain?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the thing to do is just to proceed off of what I said. Martin Luther King dedicated his life to the fight against segregation. Israel's a segregated society. The occupied territories are segregated. The Jews segregated. It's not, hard to understand. There are different signs for where different people can go. There are different license plates forbidding different people from going different places. Now, what the authorities will tell you is that this is a security measure. But if you go back to the history of Jim Crow in this country, they would tell you the exact same thing. People always have good reasons besides, I hate you and I don't like you to justify their right for imposing an oppressive regime on other people. It's never quite that simple. And so that was the first thing. But the second thing I think that you're referring to is, this is like really personal for me, because I came up in a time and in a place where I did not really understand the ethic of nonviolence. And by ethic, I mean the notion that violence itself is corrupting, that it corrupts the soul. And I didn't quite understand that. If I'm truly honest with you, as much as I saw my relationship with the Palestinian people there, and as much as it was clear what the relationship was, it was at the same time clear that there was some sort of relationship with the Israeli people too. And it wasn't one that I particularly enjoyed, because I understood the rage that comes when you have a history of oppression. I understood the anger. I understood the sense of humiliation that comes when people subject you to just manifold oppression, to genocide, and people look away from that. I come from the descendants of 250 years of enslavement. I come from a people who sexual violence and rape is marked in our very bones and in our DNA. And I understand how when you feel that the world has turned its back on you, how you can then turn your back on the ethics of the world. But I also understood how corrupting that can be. I was listening to actually my congressman last night, or I guess it was 2 nights ago, talk on the news, and a journalist asked him, how many children, how many people must be killed to justify this operation? Is there an upper limit for the number of people that could be killed when you would say this is just too much? This just doesn't compute. This does not add up. And I have to tell you, that congressman couldn't give a number. And I thought, that man has been corrupted. That man has lost himself. He's lost himself in humiliation. He's lost himself in vengeance. He has lost himself in violence. I keep hearing this term repeated over and over again. The right to self-defense. What about the right to dignity? What about the right to morality? What about the right to be able to sleep at night? Because what I know is, if I was complicit, and I am complicit, in dropping bombs on children and dropping bombs on refugee camps, no matter who's there, it would give me trouble sleeping at night. And I worry for the souls of people who can do this and can sleep at night.
Let me ask you, Ta-Nehisi, last night, as I said at the beginning, I think Union Theological was the 5th place that PALFest had turned to for this event. I want to point out who was there. Among the speakers was you, a MacArthur Genius Fellow, was Michelle Alexander, the remarkable
I can't say I worry too much about the poor lost souls in the State Department. I don't feel too bad for them, frankly.
Leading Palestinian American scholar,
yeah, they're
Edward
monsters.
Said, professor of Arab Studies at Columbia University, and others.
They're liars and murderers.
And you being at
I'm
Union
not too worried about their souls.
Dr. Martin Luther King is known for that speech, Why Oppose the War in Vietnam, that he gave across the street at Riverside Church.
To get to that level of political power in the United States, you gave up whatever soul you might have had long ago.
But can you talk about this difficulty in speaking out? I mean, just last week, we spoke to Viet Thanh Nguyen, who is the Vietnamese-American Pulitzer Prize-winning author who was on a book tour for his latest memoir. And the 92nd Street Y, now known as 92NY, canceled his conversation about his memoir because he had signed onto a letter. I think it was signed by 750 other people calling for a ceasefire. The UN Secretary General has called for a Gaza ceasefire. Can you talk about what it means to break the sound barrier? And if you were nervous about coming out and speaking about Gaza, about the West Bank, even going to begin with, knowing what you would feel responsible for doing once you came out?
Yeah, I wasn't just nervous, I was afraid. I hear people talk all the time about the how fearlessness is a necessary quality, and I have never had that. I've never had that in my life, and I certainly have never had that in my career. I spent 5 days with PalFest when I was over there, and then I spent another 5 days with a group of Israeli Jews, and I knew that whatever I was going to see, I had a sentiment. I couldn't express it like I just expressed it for you right now because obviously I hadn't been there. But I had a sentiment that what I was going to see was not going to be great. And I know that, A, because of my upbringing, and I know that, B, because of my vocation as a journalist, you can't behold evil and then return and not speak on it. And segregation is evil. There just is there's no way for me as an African American to come back and stand before you to witness segregation and not say anything
Hang on just one
about
sec, folks.
One of the hardest things was to come back and then to read the rhetoric of certain African American politicians who are defending this regime. And I couldn't understand it. I wanted to know if they had been to Hebron. I wanted to know if they had been to Massasoit, if they had been to Susha, if they had been to Tubat. Had they seen? Have they really seen, what is actually happening here? I don't know how anybody who benefits, who stands on the shoulders of our ancestors' struggle against Jim Crow, against segregation, could see what is happening right now, could see the bombs being dropped, 9,000 people dead, an ungodly number of them children, in service of Jim Crow and segregation, which we have exported, and be okay with that. I don't understand it. So yes, I have my fears. I do. I'm afraid right now, sitting here talking to you. But I have to measure my fear against the misery that I saw. I have to measure my fear against the promises that I made to the Palestinians who welcomed me into their homes and gave me the facts, to the Israeli Jews who welcomed me into their homes and gave me the facts, to the Holocaust survivors who welcomed me into their homes and gave me the facts. I have to measure it against my own ancestors, against Frederick Douglass, against Ida B. Wells, who certainly faced off against things that were much, much more perilous than going someplace, coming back and telling people what you saw. This is the minimum. It's scary, but it's also the minimum. And the fact that people are trying to suppress speech is not an excuse for you not to speak. It's always been this way for Black writers and journalists. This is our tradition, And so I feel, as I do feel the fear, I also feel that I am in good company because I'm in the company of my ancestors.
Well, Ta-Nehisi, I want to ask you about the way in which this conflict is in fact being represented in the media, and as you pointed out, politicians, Congress members, but also the White House. On Monday, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre compared pro-Palestinian protesters to the white supremacists who took part in the deadly Unite the Right rally.
It's one of the most insane things I've ever seen, honestly.
In 2017, she made the comment in response
from
to
any
a question
presidential administration.
From Fox News' Peter Ducey.
Doesn't Biden think the anti-Israel
these hundreds of thousands of people protesting because they don't want to bomb kids, they're basically neo-Nazis.
What I can say is what we've been very clear about this. When it comes to anti-Semitism, there is no place We have to make sure that we speak against it very loud and be very clear about that. Remember, what the president decided when the president decided to run for president is what he saw in Charlottesville in 2017, when he saw neo-Nazis marching down the streets of Charlottesville.
Disgrace.
With vile anti-Semitic
absolutely insane.
And he was very clear then, and he's very clear now. He's taken actions against this over the past 2 years, and he's continued to be clear. There is no place for this type of vile and despite this kind of rhetoric.
So Ta-Nehisi Coates, that's White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. Your response?
You know, I don't want to personalize this. I'm sure. She's a very, nice person and, a very, very kind person. But you see, all of us stand on the shoulders of Martin Luther King. All of us stand on the shoulders of the non-violent struggle. And on King's birthday, the White House, like it's done for years, stands up and, it praises Dr. King, and it talks about Dr. King as our modern day prophet. I don't know how these people do that and sleep at night. I don't know how you compare people who are trying to stop a war, who are very much in the tradition of nonviolence, who are trying to stop bombs being dropped literally on refugee camps, to neo-Nazi protesters. It's disgraceful, to use her own words. It's disgraceful.
It is disgraceful. It is disgraceful. Blueberry says this isn't very insightful, if I'm going to be frank. Listen to and platform Palestinians instead. Yeah, and Amy Goodman has been doing that. So I do think it's important to get the perspective of someone like Ta-Nehisi Coates. And, what did Lodane say a few moments ago? Excuse me. Oh, fucking hell. This guy seems familiar, but to be honest, I don't recall seeing him very much before. He seems pretty cool. Even if he's new to some of this stuff, he seems open-minded. I think it's worthwhile paying attention to what he has to say about this, because Ta-Nehisi Coates is really someone that came to prominence during the Obama era as being a kind of acceptable face of a kind of like black nationalism, like a liberal-friendly black nationalism, who wrote an article in the Atlantic, which was very famous, about the case for reparations, which I think was good. And yeah, was someone that like the liberal class kind of like accepted as a sort of like, as someone that they could promote and show their credentials towards social or racial justice by promoting his work and him being a part of that. And then he kind of disappeared. You didn't hear from him much during the Trump era. Or at least I didn't really see. He kind of receded as kind of a prominent figure. But I do think, though, that it's important to see if he's kind of like, and you can still see there's liberalism mixed up with this kind of analysis and saying like, oh, he doesn't want to say anything. I don't want to be too mean. She's a nice person, couching everything in this kind of like, this kind of language. I do think it's important to see, though, that the way that he's being pulled into that direction, like he's being pushed away from that movement that kind of embraced him just by how brazen and how like gross they are and grotesque they are. And I just wanted to check the name of the press secretary. I forgot. I wanted to confirm. But you see someone like Karine Jean-Pierre going up to make this kind of statement, and it's right there, the way that people of color are used by the liberal ruling class to whitewash their own violence and their own brutality and their own racism. And he's someone maybe that you might argue that was kind of like in that position a little bit as kind of an intellectual figure. And I think it's important to note the ways that, like, even if his analysis maybe doesn't go as far as we might say, the way that he's been kind of being changed by that. And the way that he's becoming aware of the depravity of the liberal ruling class that kind of accepted him, I think that's an important thing to notice, the way that there's a sort of fundamental shift that's happening right now. Imagine Malcolm X hearing her say that he would 100% humiliate her, as it should be done. Well, and I agree with that. You know? I agree with that. I do think this is an important analysis, though. And I do appreciate also the statement that, like, when you go there, you can see how uncomplicated that it is, you know? So, no, I don't think it goes far enough, the commentary or the analysis, but I do think as a figure, it's interesting to see his kind of evolution on this and the way that he's really seeing the depravity of the liberal ruling class that accepted him, like, in full display right now. He's running into contradictions and having to invent frameworks about the corruption of violence that seemed inadequate. Yeah, no, I agree that it's inadequate. I agree. His soul has been corrupted by violence. Like, no, I don't really necessarily agree with that. And I don't have sympathy for any of these people. But I do think, though, that you're seeing a evolution, and from someone that really was like someone that was held up by that liberal ruling class as being kind of an acceptable purveyor of this kind of message. I think it's interesting to see him kind of start to evolve on this. I don't have anything against Ta-Nehisi, but Palestinians don't need allies talking over them. Yeah, and, you know, I agree with that, Blueberry. But that's why, like, Democracy Now!, like, they're also, on this very segment, they have Palestinians coming on to talk at the same time. So it's not like they're just showing his perspective, and that's as far as they're going.
It's reprehensible. It is offensive, as far as I am concerned, to the shoulders on those whom we stand right now. I don't understand it. I would extend this further. I mean, I think hearing President Biden himself, and here I will personalize it, downplay the number of Palestinian deaths, to say that he doesn't believe the Palestinians. I just, when his own State Department was citing those figures only months ago. You know, there is at some point, you know, there's that saying, when people show you who
you see, he's very confused, doesn't it? He's very like, what? He's running into this contradiction. It kind of seems like this liberal ruling class are all depraved, racist fucking lunatics, but that can't be it, right? There must be some kind of like higher philosophical thing that's happening. No, you're right. Your initial thought is correct. The liberal ruling class that kind of invited you into all the same kind of cocktail parties and speeches and award ceremonies are, in fact, depraved, violent fucking murderers. You know? I think that's where he's going with it, but he's having a hard time wrapping his mind around that concept.
And so I've spent a lot of time trying to do the political calculus on this. And I think at a certain point, we have to just stop and say they believe it. They believe it. They believe bombs should be dropped on children. They just think it's okay. They think it's okay. Or at the very least, they think it's the price of doing business.
Yes, they do think it's okay.
I can align myself from. Because as I've said several times in this interview, I come from a history where people once made the exact same calculus about us and took stances that we would now say are immoral. But see, the test isn't what you did in the past. The test is what you do in the moment right now. I'm a writer. I would be much more comfortable. I was working on, a book about this. I would be much more comfortable sitting at home writing about this before I'm here talking to you guys right now. It is not my nature to talk about things that I have not written about yet. But one has to balance one's responsibility against the suffering, against the death, against the body count. And to see what is coming out of this White House right now is just it's morally reprehensible. I don't know how people sleep at night.
And I guess that's where the criticism comes in, is that I think Ta-Nehisi Coates could have been saying the same thing about Libya. I don't know what Ta-Nehisi Coates said about Libya at the time, or about other of Barack Obama's like horrific crimes that he was responsible for when he was the president. Yemen as well. Yeah, thank you. Or it's not like Israel-Palestine. That was just started in October 7th. That was also the aid flotilla. That happened under Obama, the Gaza war in, I think, 2014. I mean, this has been going on for a while. So it's good that people like Ta-Nehisi Coates are becoming more aware of this, but again, this is a criticism that I think is a kind of a long time coming. It could have, and I think a lot of people were so caught up in the history of the Obama moment and the fact that, like, for the first time, a black man was the president of the United States. People were so caught up in the history of it, and everyone was, and it was historic, and it was remarkable and inspiring. But you know, the violence and the depravity of the liberal elite ruling class didn't just start with the Biden administration. It happened when he was becoming a really prominent writer and commentator. But I think it is good that he's coming to these realizations.
You've been talking about Dr. King. His daughter,
we
Dr. Bernice King, who heads the King Center, lawyer, Martin Luther King's youngest daughter, responded to a post by the comedian Amy Schumer, who shared a video of Dr. King condemning anti-Semitism and defending Israel's right to exist. Bernice King wrote, quote, "Certainly my father was against anti-Semitism. He also believed militarism, along with racism and poverty, to be among the interconnected triple evils. I am certain he would call for Israel's bombing of Palestinians to cease," Dr. Bernice King said. And so if you could comment on this and also talk about how the issue of Palestinians, the occupied territories, the occupation, has been raised in the Black community, the movement for Black lives, for years now. And the pressure you come under when you do.
Yeah, and look, I think it's very, very important to talk about the force of anti-Semitism in history, indeed in American history, in fact. It's a very, very, very real thing, and I don't think you can understand the events of the moment without understanding, you know, that. And I think over the past few weeks, especially, much has been made about the historic alliance between Black folks and Jewish activists and Jewish folks and that sort of thing. And it's a very, very real thing. It's a very, very important thing. But I think, like any alliance, it is at its best when it grounds itself in moral principle. Not in a kind of gang truce, not in a kind of I had your back, so you'll have mine. A moral alliance that is transactional is actually, in fact, not a moral alliance. And we have always been at our best. When I think about the Jewish civil rights workers who went south and put their bodies on the line for the civil rights movement, I like to think, and I think it's true, that was not a transactional arrangement. That was not, an attempt to say, look, I'm doing this because I think you'll have my back in the future. They did it because it was right. They did it based on principle. And so, I think some of the frustration that certain people feel about the lack of African American support for this war comes from this notion that we should have people's back as they drop bombs to try to defend a segregationist apartheid regime. We shouldn't do that. And we haven't done that. That's the history that you allude to. I mean, going back to Angela Davis, to SNCC, to Black Lives Matter, I stand here, or I sit here very, very humbly as a latecomer to the cause, but, someone who has come to the cause nonetheless. We have to stand on principle, man. We have to stand on principle. And if I'm a latecomer to the Palestinian cause, I'm also a latecomer to the cause of nonviolence. But I'm here now, and knowing what that has meant to our history, there is no way in the world that we can leverage the memory of Dr. Martin Luther King. There's no way in the world we can leverage the weight, the ancestry of our movement in defense of a war, in defense of indiscriminate bombings or refugee camps. We can't do that. We can't do that. We would be a disgrace to our ancestors.
And also, just supporting Israel's right to do anything has nothing to do with Jewish people that promoted the civil rights movement. who were, and that's true, very true. Jewish people and activists have been hugely important allies in the struggle for civil rights, for social justice and racial justice, socialism, decolonialism, of course. But that's the whole thing, is that those people almost uniformly are not in support of Israel, because Israel's existence runs totally contrary to any of those values. So there's not some transactional thing. Well, Jewish people helped support the civil rights movement, helped support Black Lives Matter. Like, that has nothing to do with supporting Israel's right to bomb kids.
Ta-Nehisi, last night, just to end, you said, we've just spoken about the fact that it was so difficult for the Palestine Festival of Literature to find a venue for last night's event. Your own books here in the U.S. Have faced book bans, and yours aren't the only ones, of course. But you've said that when people resort to these measures, book banning, limiting public discussions, these are weapons of a weak and a decaying order. Could you explain what you mean by that, and why there is, despite the horror of the moment, some scope for optimism?
Well, I think if you, and a lot of this is, actually from my time talking to Rashid Khalidi and Professor Rashid Khalidi up at Columbia. And one of the points he made, I came back from Palestine, and I just was glass-eyed. I didn't understand. I had this deep-seated feeling that in fact I had been lied to, and I began consulting people and talking to people, and so I got to spend some time with Professor Khalidi, and one of the things he said to me was, never has the movement, this is somebody who's been fighting this war for his entire life, he said, never has the movement been as powerful as it is right now. And I had to take that in. I also have to take in the fact that, like, when I think about what I did not know and when I did not know, it wasn't that I had competing sources and I didn't know what to turn. The way I think Americans have traditionally, up until very recently,
we have 10 seconds, Ta-Nehisi.
Sure, I'm sorry about that. I will just say that
I'm very
optimistic about the fight, and I think we're going to win. I'll leave it there.
Ta-Nehisi Coates, acclaimed writer, National Book Award winner, spoke at an event last night organized by Palestine Festival of Literature here in New York. We will link to the live stream. Before we end this update from...
Just one final comment. That coat on Amy is just a really good look. Really nice jacket. So I think that was interesting. It was interesting. I understand the criticism. People don't think it goes far enough, and it doesn't. I think he admits himself that he's kind of a latecomer to this struggle, which I think is kind of unfortunate. You see exactly why Ta-Nehisi Coates, even though he's done a lot of commentary that I think is very good, you see why he was kind of an acceptable purveyor of that kind of message of racial justice or social justice, and why he was accepted in these liberal circles, because he was not really plugged into any of those struggles. I think it is an interesting example of of a kind of shift that's happening, though, for a lot of people that have been either inside or at least on the outside looking in of these kind of like liberal establishment circles. Like, you're really seeing a split. And for a lot of people that wanted to believe that their liberal friends were allies and comrades, I think if it wasn't clear before, and to me, I'm sorry, like, it was clear to me as a fucking musician, shiftless pothead guy. It was clear to me in 2014 had the depravity and violence of the ruling class when you saw Obama's drone policy, his foreign policy, Libya, Syria, their support for Israel. Like, it was clear then at the time to me, and I'm not exactly a fucking intellectual heavyweight, I've tried to learn about and talk about these things for the last couple of years. I wouldn't describe myself, especially 10 years ago, as being some kind of like really, really, this big intellectual guy or academic guy. It was clear to me the depravity of the liberal ruling class. So I don't think it's that much of an excuse to say that, like, I'm now coming around to this, but I still think it's also encouraging that there's people, even people that have run in those illiberal elite circles, are starting to see the writing on the wall. I do think that's kind of fascinating to me. Don't be mean to us shiftless pothead guys. Well, listen, we have a lot to offer for $1.10, all right? We have a lot to offer the world. I try to be an example to shiftless pothead guys everywhere. That you too can have a middlingly popular live show that you do. Where you talk about politics and culture and theory and these kind of things. And sodas. That's one of the main topics. Thank you for your service, Rob, from a shiftless pothead. Thank you, Lodane. Anyway, kind of interesting. There's more stuff to look at. I got about another hour to go here. I will just take a moment to remind you, now that we've been, 2 hours and 50 minutes into this stream, that if you do enjoy my commentary, if you do, for whatever reason, enjoy having me talk you through all these various issues, I don't know what that says about you. I'm not in a position to judge anybody. But if you enjoy this commentary,
good old Rob,
and if you enjoy the show and you like being part of the community and you have found it helpful somehow, please, if you can, subscribe to the show or give subs. As you know, and thank you, Anon, for the gifted sub. I really appreciate that. Anon, thank you. As you know, the only way that I'm able to continue doing this program every single day is if I make the little number go up every day. And every little bit helps. If you enjoy the show, if you enjoy watching my commentary or this program, and it has been helpful for you, please, if you can, subscribe. Help me make the little number go up. Right now, we got Klobocop leading on the leaderboards right now for gifted subs this month, followed closely by Von Sockthroat and followed by our friend Diego as well.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Hey, Antonia, thanks for the 23 months of Tier 1. Very, very close to that 24-month, 2-year sub badge. Thank you for that. And now just a mere 27 subs away, right? A mere 27 subs away from the goal. So it's really just within reach now. It's within grasp. So if anyone else out there wants to support this program, wants to carry my tired ass across the finish line, please, if you can, support TRRS. It's $5 per month. It is completely free of charge with an Amazon Prime account, which you can easily convert to a Twitch Prime sub, totally free of charge. You can subscribe or gift subs or friend coin or tips or whatever it is. Everything that, all the support that I get from this community, which is really incredible and inspiring, allows me to continue doing this program each and every day. And it allows this community to keep living for another day. So if you can, please subscribe to TRRS, the program that you're currently watching right now at this exact time, at this moment. Are the Discord reports going to make a comeback this season? Yes, that's something else that I've talked with about with Lodane. So we will be having a Discord clout report segment, definitely. Coming up. Crackety Kraken, thank you for the 69 friend coin. Thank you, Crackety Kraken, for that. 69, that's the a sex number. The sex number. Very exciting. Nice. Yeah. I was wondering what happened to that, even though I'm barely on Discord. I mean, it's always just fun. It's fun to do. I put on the funny music, and I do my sports announcer voice, you know. Did Applesauce 69 get banned? No, I don't think so. I think they just took off. They asked a couple of really, like, obnoxious questions, and then just kind of took off. Many such cases. They left and then we banned them. Okay, I didn't know that. But I don't think someone that was in here trying to, like, have some kind of a serious debate or learn about anything. You're telling me you weren't convinced by their scathing criticism? No. I didn't think that was very good. Not very convincing. Just saying, like, but what about the same argument that's been used to justify apartheid for the last 70 years? Has no one thought of this? I saw Stephen's comments about this as well. Even I think in the same moment that he said, like, oh yeah, I'm pro-genocide. By the way, I think they should just go live somewhere else. Good job. That's his stance. But he's also like, there should be some kind of, like, two-state solution. I think the U.S. should mediate some kind of two-state solution. And it's like, wow, did you come up with that all by yourself? Has anyone tried that? Has anyone ever thought of this brilliant idea to end this conflict? Why haven't we asked this fucking guy? Coming up with this brilliant idea. What about a U.S. mediated two-state solution? Wow, that's fantastic. I can't believe no one has ever thought about that before. Surely no one else has thought of the thing I heard on TV because I'm the smartest boy. I read one Wikipedia article about this thing that I thought about for the first time 2 weeks ago. And I've come up with a solution that I think people will appreciate. If only Israel didn't murder every serious advocate for a two-state solution, or spend exact
Flip
same
to
outfit.
rib, he is rad.
Exact same outfit. Look at that. Risk Inverse, thanks so much for the 1,000 friend coin. That's very kind of you. Risk Inverse, thank you for that. If only they didn't murder every serious advocate for a two-state solution or build illegal settlements on top of the fucking other state that's supposed to exist. You have thousands of people now living on the land where there's supposed to be another state. For a second, I couldn't tell which Rob was real. That's right. So still, we've made a bunch of progress, but now, thankfully, after the progress that we've made over the last couple of minutes, I'm happy to report that we are now only 27 subs away from the goal. Only a mere minor 27 subs after the progress of the last few minutes. So, almost getting there. Getting really close. It's within grasp now, for sure. So once again, I will just remind people, if you can, if you enjoy this program, if you enjoy this commentary, if you like being part of the community, please, if you can, subscribe to TRRS. We're so close to the goal now. I can almost taste it. It's only 27 subs away. TRRS Season 4, Episode 2. That's how you find it on LimeWire. All these episodes. I'm waiting for my sub to expire in like 2 hours, then I can reprime. That's okay. That's okay, Crackety Kraken. Taking it way back with LimeWire. Ironically, I didn't even use LimeWire because I didn't have Mac, but I was a Kazaa guy. I was a Napster and then a Kazaa. I was a big Kazaa head.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Subscription Steve. LimeWire was PC? Okay, well, I didn't have LimeWire. I didn't use it. I used Kazaa. Thank you, Subscription Steve, for the 2 gifted subs. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate that. I Kazaaed all your albums? Cool, I'm glad. I'm glad you did. Use the computer to mark up the size of the account. You can count on it to bring you good old Rob to talk you through all this. That's right. By the way, I should let people know, I did put together a little retrospective, a season 1 through 3 retrospective. We looked at it on the stream yesterday.
You can count on me.
But
You're
I
gonna
did
have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I did actually upload that for other people to enjoy. So I'm just going to hear, if you didn't see that, I really do recommend it because it's quite funny. It is quite funny. But please watch that. Season 1 to 3, a retrospective. I had a lot of laughs yesterday watching that. I used Kazaa until it bricked my family's computer, then we couldn't afford to buy a new one for almost 5 years.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Then I used LimeWire when we finally got a new one. There you go. What did you get down some kind of fucked up virus on Kazaa? Thinking that you were getting like, I don't know. I'm going to get too crass. Get too crass about what was being downloaded and when on Kazaa. I think we all know what I'm talking about. Maverick, thanks for 23 months tier 1. I really appreciate it. Very close to the 2-year, 24-month badge. Thank you, Maverick. And thank you, Crackety Kraken, as well, for the gifted sub. Crackety Kraken, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for the gift sub.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
TRRS Sankara.
Sunny Sola, thanks for the 17 months.
You can count on me.
Tier 2.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
From the river to the sea left FL1 free.
Thank you, Tiniest Boop, for 27 months tier 1. Tiniest Boop. Thank you very much, Tiniest Boop, for that. I really appreciate that. 27 months tier 1. It was just music. I was too young to download crass things at the time, but old and smart enough to know how to use a computer. Sure, sir, brain damage. No, I'm not joking around. I totally believe you that all you were downloading on the family computer was just music. I get it, and I totally believe you. I enjoy that there are multiple songs a generation thinks are by different artists because they're mislabeled on those sites.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Again, I have comments about this that I shouldn't even articulate. You know, different musicians, different people, you know. Sunny Sola, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you, Sunny Sola. I really appreciate that. You've been so supportive. Thank you, Sunny Sola. I was like 10 years old trying to download video game soundtracks. Lol, I was a turbo nerd from day one. No, totally. Like, I get it. And I know that you're being totally honest about that. And, like, completely understood. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sir Brain Damage. I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm not. Maybe it's a bit of projection, frankly. It might be a little bit of projection coming from me.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Maverick, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. I really appreciate the support, Maverick. Thank you. Every accusation and admission, exactly. That's how it works sometimes, isn't it? It do be like that. I don't remember. Is it this? Sometimes it do. It's true. And folks, we are now a mere 14 subs away. I was doing the we're X subs away bit for a little while. But we now are only 14 subs away from the goal. So it really is, unironically, within grasp now. It's really within reach. So remember, while we're taking this little break, we're a mere 14 subs away from the goal. As you know, I must try and hit the sub goal every single day. That's the only way that I'm able to kind of continue doing this program. So if you can, 14 subs to go, a couple hundred
You've
viewers.
just become an elite member
my goodness.
of the Friendship Triangle.
Oh my goodness, Sir Brain Damage. Sir Brain Damage, thank you. Thank you for taking my playful ribbing in the spirit of jest that it was intended. Thank you, Sir Brain Damage, for the 5 gifted subs. Very, very kind of you. Thank you. And now a mere 9 subs away. Couple hundred viewers. It's not a FinDom arc. I'm very nice. I'm not mean about this at all. I'm not mean to people. This is merely what I must do as a Twitch streamer. I have to make the fucking number go up every day, or I can't do it. That's just the bottom line. You know? That's just how it goes, and I hope people understand that. I was actually just searching for a song I liked called Big Boob. Okay, yeah. Heather Brooke was actually a singer that I was really into at that time. Anyway, and 9 subs to go. A mere 9 subs to go to get to the goal. So if anyone else wants to, please subscribe to TRRS. That's what you can do. That's what you can do to support the show and this community. Only 9 subs to get to the goal. So if you can, please subscribe. We got this hype train. We're level 4 of this hype train going on. Level 4 of this hype train. Very close to a level 5. So who are the brave heroes that are going to step to the plate? And then I can stop doing this. I can stop doing this. I can stop doing this whole segment. There's no snickering, Sean. There's no snickering at all. We're simply reflecting on an earlier time in the internet where we like to download songs and other things from peer-to-peer downloading applications such as Kazaa.
Wow, okay, Rob. Seriously, wow.
Oh my goodness. What the fuck? What in the heck? What the heck? Man, and I was like, I've been putting off making a special alert for the 20 subs. Because I was like, well, that's not going to be a problem to take a few extra days to implement that. Strip club breakfast buffet. Strip club breakfast buffet. Thank you so very much for 20 gifted subs. That's your first 20 gifted subs in the channel. Instantly becoming not only a valued community member, Strip Club Breakfast Buffet, but also an elite member of the Friendship Triangle system. Instantly, on day one of being in this community. Wow. That's absolutely fantastic. Here, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna try and do I wanted to make a new alert for in case the odd time that came along that someone were to gift 20 subs, which is a big donation, a big contribution. I wanted to do this as like a surprise. I'm gonna try and fake it though, just for Strip Club Breakfast Buffet. Okay? Okay, let's see if I can do this here. I'm going to do like a fake version of this alert, which I am going to create. That's right. And you can take this to the bank, but I, Rob Rousseau, love getting DP'd. Oh, okay. Anyway, I guess that's kind of spoiling the surprise, but I am going to turn that into an actual alert. If anyone really wants to do that kind of a donation, which is something that I appreciate a lot, you know. I'll either do that or the Mr. Newsman thing. There's a whole clip from the clip show that we watched yesterday. Where I said, oh, I'm Mr. Newsman. I was thinking about that as well. Really putting yourself out there today. I know, I guess. It's like, it's what you got to do, I guess. Wow. Okay. Well. Where do you even go from there, really? You know we're being watched because of my horny Castro statements, and you go and do this. Absurd, terrible, I'm ruined. Lodin, you were right to say it, okay? You were right to say it. And I will stand by you. And in fact, up the ante to make it even more inappropriate. Oh my. Anyway, the statement was in reference to Dr. Pepper, the soda. It was talking about one of my preferred sodas. Okay, that's all. That's all it was about. Now I have to make that alert for real. Jesus. What's up, Marcus? How's it going? I am doing good. I'm doing good.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Ben, thank you for the gifted sub to Marcus, aka Left Flank Vets. Thank you for that. So just looking for it's hard to now pivot back to being serious after some of that absolute fucking absurdity. I'm so speechless right now. It's really hard to know how to pivot back to being like a serious person in moments like this. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take like a 2-minute break. I'm gonna take a really not a long break because I've only got about another 40 minutes to go. I'm gonna take a 2-minute break. I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna come back and we're gonna do more serious stuff. Okay? This is the only way I know how to do this. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to be back in like 2 minutes, alright? I'm just going to take a quick lie down. Quick 2-minute lie down. I'm going to come back. We'll do some more serious stuff. Okay, hello, I'm here. I'm here, hello. It me. Do you like Weird Science? You know about Weird Science, Lodane? What I didn't realize is like the song from that movie. Like there's a Weird Science theme song, which was by, is it Oingo Boingo, which is Danny Elfman's band. Like before Danny Elfman became like Danny Elfman, the composer. He was in Oingo Boingo, who played that song, and I had no idea. I was not familiar with the Oingo Boingo's work, actually. My opinion on the movie Weird Science is I would be hard-pressed to find any movie where anyone was as hot as the girl from Weird Science in the movie Weird Science. That's right, Kelly LeBrock. For a while, Mrs. Steven Seagal. That's how fucked up the 90s were. Steven Seagal somehow found his way to marrying Kelly LeBrock because she co-starred in his film Hard to Kill. And he is cool in that movie. I mean, it's hard to argue with that. He is cool in that. Hard to Kill is really good. Yeah, I fucking love that movie, actually. It's just funny because he wakes up from this 8-year coma to kill all the people that killed his wife and he thinks killed his son, and to go on this quest for revenge against those people. But he's like, while I'm on my quest for revenge for the people that killed my wife, I'm also going to have sex with Kelly LeBrock. In the middle of my quest for revenge over my dead wife, I'm also going to do that. What do you mean, is that where you got it? You can take that to the bank. That's not a saying that I use, is it? It's my classic saying. I don't think I've ever said that. You just played it in that fucking alert. Oh, no, I didn't get it from that. No, that's just like a common expression. But it is from Hard to Kill, you're right. Senator Trent in Hard to Kill does say that. That's what inspires the iconic line reading, I'm going to take you to the senator. Fuck. I'm not as good of an actor as Steven Seagal. That's how good I am at this. I'm going to take you to the bank, Senator Trent. To the blood bank. I'm taking you to the Senate. No, you're not taking him there. That's not good. He's already there. He's quite successful. I think we unlocked a memory here and you don't even realize it. I don't think so. Like, take that to the bank. Like, there's the Money in the Bank contract for WWE. Like, it's like that's a common expression. And that's what Senator Trent says in that movie. You can take that to the bank. That's his big, like, catchphrase. It's an awesome movie. We should do that in a movie night sometime. Fucking great score, too. I love the Hard to Kill score. It's so good. It's one of the most iconic action movie scores. Because the temperature is about to get turned up. This is when the bad guys show up. Oh shit. It's so cool. It is a funny a song to put on with like an ad for hash browns or whatever. What is happening? I don't know. It's a good question. Good question, Moist Outlets. Did Steven Seagal play guitar in the score? Yeah, that's right, he did. You can see it here. Check this out. Check this out. This is crazy. If you thought he was just an Aikido master capable of defeating, you know, dozens of enemies at a single time, he's also an incredible guitar player. Check this out. Check out this virtuoso playing. Amazing. You know, he's not just good at ripping out guys' throats, but he can also totally shred on the guitar as well. But like, you don't need to, like, when you're this proficient at just instantly annihilating
hundreds of gifts, they'll
instantly annihilating anyone trying to attack you, then it's like the fact that you can do something else on top of that, and you're an expert at something else entirely, is like really incredible and really incredible accomplishment. Look at this, how effortless it is. Check this out. Oh, you think this guy's just an actor, right? Oh, he's just this big shot Hollywood actor. Surely he's not the world's biggest badass as well. Well, check this out. Look at this, easily just manhandling all these guys. Look at this. Just completely effortless. Barely even breaking the sweat. All these jabronis. Wrist lock. Just putting everyone in a wrist lock. Effortless. Look at that. So all those guys passed away after this. That's right. Me as an uncle and my nephews want to fight. So anyway, you want to mock this guy or say, oh, he's goofy or he's corny or he can't act or whatever? Well, you better watch out, because that's the kind of thing that he can do. Looks like Rob is back from break talking about serious stuff again. Well, the thing is, it's just timing-wise. I think any other serious discourse is probably going to have to wait till tomorrow. I'm going to have to go pick up my kid pretty soon. The trick to might of fighting multiple guys is to be Steven Seagal. That's right. And there's only one. There's only one person that can do that kind of thing. What else, folks? What else is there? What are your thoughts on the hypothesis that Seagal is CIA? Well, that's the hypothesis that he himself has promoted. That was a big part of his whole like marketing, the way that he marketed himself. Oh, I'm not like one of these like actor guys. Like I'm actually an operative. I'm actually like an operative. The CIA sends anytime they don't want to get their hands too dirty, they send me in there. Shameless self-plug, Crad Babes. I'm really happy to hear this. I've finally done my first soft launch stream. Now I've broken the golden seal. Expect to see me streaming regularly, but a proper schedule in the Discord when I sort it out. But for now, I'd appreciate everyone keeping their eyes out for me. Thank you, Crad Babes. I'm really happy to hear that. I've been bugging you about this for a while now to get this thing going. I'm happy to hear that you're doing it. Always appreciate your insight and your commentary in the chat, so I'm sure your stream is going to be fantastic. And just make sure, Crad Babes, that you're set up in the Discord server as well, so that people can get a notification when you're going live. No, in the TRRS Discord server, you can set it up so you're like a streamer role or something. So then when you go live, people in our community get a little signal that you're that you're streaming. Lodane or Marty or any one of our wonderful mods can help you with that. I wouldn't be able to help you because I don't know how it works. I know vaguely that it's something that you can do, but I have no idea how it works, so don't... All I can give you is moral encouragement. That is the thing that you can do. That goes to anyone that's like, that also streams. You know, when you get started out streaming, it's difficult to find, and sometimes it can be difficult to find an audience, difficult to find a community, but that's one cool thing about this community is that if you are getting started out, and you want, to let people know that you're doing that, you get set up on Discord with the role, so then when you do go live, people get a little notification. Hopefully you can get some TRRS heads to give you a little boost to your stream, so that goes to whoever else is also streaming if you're part of the community. What if I only stream Diablo 2? That's totally, you can stream whatever you want. whatever it is. I don't think anyone can guarantee that it's going to lead to people showing up, but like it doesn't hurt. I really, really, really enjoyed playing that Carrion game. I knew I would like it just because I could get the sense that it seemed like something I would be really into. But I really, really enjoyed Carrion. I almost a little bit regret not streaming it because I had a really fun time playing that. Did you see the new RoboCop game? I was aware that they were making a new RoboCop game, but I don't know if I'm familiar with it though. No, I said RoboCop. I believe you're mistaken. You're mistaken, Jay. But I forgive you. You know what I also picked up that was on sale for Halloween? I picked up Aliens Dark Descent, and I haven't even played Aliens Fireteam Alpha, which I think I would really like, and I haven't played that. But I did download Aliens Dark Descent as well, which seems kind of cool, so... I would like to give that a try. I haven't played Alien Isolation, Aliens Fireteam Alpha, or Aliens Dark Descent. 3 games that I think are very good in this universe, in this genre, that I absolutely love. Have not played any of them. Maybe I should get around to that at some point. They are very different games. They should remake AVP from the 2000s. I loved those Alien vs. Predator games. Being able to... I was never really into playing as the alien, but being able to play as the Predator was so cool. And with all the different sound effects and the heat vision and everything. Shooting guys with that little, like, dart thing. That was fun. Thank you, Jay. Thank you for your fairness on this. The Marine campaign was fun as well, yeah. So I would like to do 3 of those. I would like to play all of those games. There are so many games that I want to play that I just haven't got around to. It's quite unfortunate. I don't know if I'm going to finish Cyberpunk. I don't know. You know, I liked it. I was doing the Cyber Rob streams. I was enjoying it. And I've hit a point where I just don't know if I'm going to continue with it. I don't know. Should I? Like I said, I just don't think I'm good. I feel like I'm missing a step. Every time I try to do a mission, I just feel like I'm getting completely owned and I don't have the abilities and the know-how that I need to, like, make it through the game. I don't know. I just feel like I'm missing something. Yeah, some of the footage from these Al-Qasim brigades are crazy. Yeah, we were just talking about that, Diego. Yeah, I love those games. I love those early AVP games. Have you played since the huge update? No, I don't think so. I haven't played any of the new stuff, and I never finished the whole main campaign. IDF will not leave their tanks. It seems like from every indication that we've seen, they're nowhere near prepared to engage in this kind of ground invasion. And they've now kind of committed to it, and now Hezbollah is also kind of committing to get involved, or maybe they're going to. We're supposed to see this talk from Nasrallah tomorrow that they've been hyping up with Marvel-style teaser trailers for a while now. So it's like they have to go ahead with it. They've said they're going to do it, or else now they look like paper tigers, which they are, but they're also going to expose themselves for being completely unable to cope with it. Yeah, 0 military acumen. All you know how to do is shoot kids with sniper rifles and drop bombs on apartment buildings. That's all you've been doing for generations. Try to go now and go into places where people have had years to fortify their positions, people that are fighting for their homeland, people that have lost family members and lost their entire families, and see how that goes. Okay, well, thanks for that update, Breckon. I don't think I could start a new playthrough. I really don't. I think it's going to be a miracle if I can pick it up and try and actually get to anywhere approaching the end. I gave up with Cyberpunk 1 too, but have been enjoying it since the update. Ugh. I just don't know. I don't know what to do. Look for some heinous event to justify more violence soon. Well, that's the question, right? Is whether this is going to escalate. That's why I'm curious about Nasrallah and Hezbollah and what ends up happening with that. Hello, Elite the Jolly. Hello. Thanks for joining the stream. I'm actually just leaving. Rob, game streams when I can do more game streams. It's just, it seems like that's not what the people want, you know? I guess I should do it more. I mean, when I game, I guess it doesn't really hurt to just like turn on my camera and just start doing this, but just pick up Civ 6 and stream that. I've never gotten into any of those like civilization games or any of those kind of strategy games either. Hello, Weenus. We got a bunch of people showing up right at the end here, right as we're heading out the door. You know, one thing that I would really like to do that I've always wanted to do is more like D&D or some kind of like real role-playing thing. I would love to do a real kind of like tabletop RPG kind of thing. You know? I've always wanted to do that and I've never gotten around to it, and I think it would be so fun to do. I would really enjoy doing that. I think I'm ready, Lodane. I think so. I know that's niche, but that's really something that I've wanted to do for a long time. To do that. We'll see. I'll try to do more stuff. I'm gaming sometimes. I game. I can do gaming streams. Folks, thanks for tuning in and watching the show. Thanks for supporting me and the work that I do on here. Sometimes it's work and sometimes it's stupid bullshit. You know, I get that. But people support it and I appreciate you. Thank you. I'll be back tomorrow. Give my regards to Dan Simpson. See you then. Goodbye.